What is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. Of course, update 1.59 launched today, or when you're watching this video it would have been yesterday, and alongside it came 4 brand new cars slash vehicles I guess. Now in terms of the vehicles themselves, there's a nice mixed bag here. We have some American sports car slash muscle car, an Italian supercar, a K-truck in the form of the Suzuki Carry, and of course the grocery getter Honda CR-V. And well, I've been deep diving into every single one of these cars, whether it's the stock variant, fully upgraded, all of their customization options, you name it, I've probably tested it out and tried it. And well, in today's video I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on all 4 of the new vehicles with this update. Now just to note, I will have individual full breakdown and reviews for every single one of these cars in the near future, and honestly my opinion might change over time. However, I'm going to give you an overview of all 4 of the vehicles and give you a brief opinion on each of them. So let's begin. Okay, so let's get the bad out the way and done with first. The Honda CR-V Black Edition from 2021. Now by default it has a PP rating of 381.02, a displacement of 1993 cc, a drivetrain which is 4-wheel drive, doesn't sound too bad there, and it is a little underpowered to what I actually predicted, 181 brake horsepower. It does weigh 1700 kg, which means it's a fairly hefty chonker, and it's naturally aspirated. All of this can be yours for 46,000 credits. However, I would honestly just give this one a miss. Now in terms of customization, it does follow the trend of the rest of the SUV slash crossovers. It has a lot there to customize and it's actually quite impressive. It does have a wider body option. Now in terms of the wheels, there are plenty available and lots you can do with them. So there's no shortage in terms of customization and what you want to do. Now you can go as low as 16 inches or go as high as 23, which honestly just looks like a train on rails, which is just absolutely hilarious. Now in terms of the width, you can change it to wide and the offset can only stay standard. Now in terms of the actual aero options, now there's some good options here. As you can see, Type A gives it this time attack front bumper splitter, Type B gives it an off-road light bar. It is actually pretty cool. Now Type A is the side of the vehicle which does actually change depending on whether it's wide bodied or not. As you can see with the wide body, you once again get the sort of time attack aero option. Now as we go to the back, there is a couple of options here. The first is to sort of debadge all of the details and all of the badges, and next is the Type B, which is a huge rear diffuser, very much following in the form of the Pikes Peak on the Hyundai. Now in terms of the rear options for the wing, it's a Type A and a Type B. Both are pretty ridiculous. Other customization options include the ability to add a roll cage as well as some front grille options, which is a D badge and then the badge added back on with a bonnet bra. So for the customization, it is actually impressive, but where this thing falls flat on its face is of course the performance. Now let's be straight up here, nobody expected this thing to be good, and in fact most people, I'd say 99% of us, didn't want this thing in game, or at least this type of thing. Again, for me personally and for a lot of other people, SUV type crossovers are just not for us. However, I will admit, out of all of the crossovers that we've had pretty much so far this year in 2025 when they've been arriving, this is the best looking of the bunch. But unfortunately, we've been given once again the wrong type of engine and the wrong transmission. Now this does have the blue Honda badge, which means it's a hybrid, and unfortunately that is where the issue lies. It's a hybrid with a CVT transmission, which means in game it's going to be stuck in automatic no matter what. You have no control over the gearings, although yes, you can hear the CVT working and changing gears. It is absolutely, hands down, and I'm not doing this for effect, the worst transmission in the entirety of Gran Turismo 7, to the point it is absolutely undrivable. So at least standard, you'll be 1 minute getting the hang of it and then all of a sudden it will just drive like absolute junk. Unfortunately, it is a complete flop. But can this be turned around with upgrades? Now of course, when it comes to the customization, there is plenty there to make this look absolutely ridiculous in all the best ways. I think it looks fantastic with the customization equipped. Unfortunately, because of the engine and the transmission, once again it's incredibly limited to what we can do as we go for the fully upgraded build, and unfortunately nothing changes. That CVT in this vehicle remains absolutely terrible. And again, the engine, when it comes to actually tuning it up and getting that little bit extra power out of it, is almost absolutely gutless. This thing will just slightly go over 100 mile an hour tops, and that is your lot. Don't get me wrong, when it comes to downforce and getting it through the corners, it can feel actually quite fun. That's if the transmission wants to work as it really should. So just like the Toyota back in January, unfortunately due to the engine and transmission, you'll probably not even have 5 minutes of fun with this one. Alright, up next, the Suzuki Carry KC, and things are going to get much better from here on out. Now in terms of the Suzuki Carry KC from 2012, it has a PP rating of 233.26, displacement of 658cc, an FR drivetrain, a whopping 47 brake horsepower, weighing only 710 kg. It's also naturally aspirated. It's also one of the cheapest vehicles in GT7 period for a price of 7,600 credits, so not going to break the bank, and you'll probably want to stock up on these considering the sheer amount of customization. In terms of customization, it does have a wide body option. Now in this section I'm going to do a lot of talking about the wide body, so just bear that in mind. Now when it comes to the wheels, at first it's going to feel very limited overall in what you can actually add on, but don't stress too much. All you need to do is add the wide body on, and this will open up the options available to the player, so just take note of that if you're wondering why. Now in terms of the non-wide body variant, there is still a lot of customization here. You have these sort of different lip options and bumper extensions. On the side you also have these sort of wind deflector options, and then this sort of sealed off side variant, which I do think looks very nice and a little bit like the midget from back in the day. Now at the rear things get interesting. Yes, we do have a ramen noodle bar built in to the Suzuki Carry. Now in terms of the wing options, this is something that won't change whether it's wide body or non-wide body. We also have this cool little sign, which from what I can tell stands for, you know, transportation of dangerous goods. So things such as fuel and that over in Japan. I thought this was a very neat little touch. Now in terms of the rest of the car, well, we do have grille options available, plenty of them in fact, a type A, B and C. I really like the B option because it gives it this sort of bad boy bonnet feeling. So those of max power days will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And then we do have the whole sealed off front for the type C. Both look pretty decent. Now in terms of the rest of the vehicle, once you've got the wide body on, this is going to open up these sort of racing K-truck options. As you can see, type B is now incredibly extended and really down to the floor. Same with type B when it comes to the side option. This gives it this whole skirt option. It looks incredibly cool. And at the back, well, as you can see, you have the entire removal of the side panels, or you can have the roll cage and diffuser. Looks absolutely incredible. So as for the K-Truck, what do I think about it? Well, honestly, I've always been one that's kind of pushed for the Daihatsu midget to return. And for me, the Suzuki Carry is sort of a spiritual successor. I had plenty of hours with the midget in terms of GT2 and GT4, and to see something like this in GT7 is an absolute dream for an original Gran Turismo fan. And honestly, with the added customization this thing gets, it's fantastic. I know a lot of people are really trashing on this thing, saying, look, why do we need it? But honestly, this type of vehicle is made for a game like Gran Turismo, and with all the options available, it's going to absolutely be a banger. And I can only think that it will be improved in the future with an engine swap. Unfortunately, it didn't get one day one, which means you do have relatively low power output, but it is still turbochargeable, and honestly, there's a lot you can do with it. So as for the stock version, I certainly feel that's one for the sort of role player type guys, but where things get incredibly interesting is when it comes to those upgrades and the different buildable variants. I really feel when it comes to the K-Truck, we're getting almost like 5 different vehicles slapped into one. Again, as mentioned, you've got the type of vehicle for the role players. You've also got the opportunity to build up a ramen noodle truck if you want to do that. You can also have the sort of full bed on the back, or of course you can go for the racing truck variant, which I have here. And honestly, it's incredible. Props to Polyphony for going absolutely all out on this model. It's dirt cheap, there's plenty of customization options and plenty of performance to have from it. The only complaint, like I said, is the fact that it lacks an engine swap up at present, but I don't think it's going to be long before this one gets one. I honestly believe when it comes to the community as a whole, there's going to be countless liveries for this thing and countless different builds. Overall, I would say this is a worthy and definitely exceeding expectations addition to the game. Next up, the Ferrari 812 Superfast. Now, first of all, it is expensive. 550,000 credits, I believe, makes it the most expensive production Ferrari, which isn't an invite car. So that's pretty ridiculous. 688.85 pp, 6,496 cc, FR drivetrain, a max power of 788 brake horsepower, weighing 1,525 kilograms, and it's also a naturally aspirated V12. Overall, this is an absolutely stunning model. Now, in terms of customization options, it does have the option for a wide body, and again, this is going to set you back even more credits for 100,000 credits for the wide body option here. Now, in terms of the rest of the customization, nothing actually changes with the wide body option. So whether it's the standard or wide body, nothing is going to change here. You have plenty of wheel options. You can go as low as 19 inches or as high as 22. For me, the sweet spot is 21 inch there. I think it looks absolutely awesome. Next up, we do have front aero options. We have a Type A and a Type B. Not changing too much, but more of an extended lip. At the back, we do have a Type A diffuser, which sort of carbons it all off. And at the wings, we do have two options. This sort of ducktail lip spoiler and this ridiculous Type B. There is nothing else in terms of customization, so let's talk about the standard performance. And honestly, this is where the car shines. It sounds absolutely incredible from that screaming V12. It's also living up to its name in the fact that this really is super fast. Now, those aggressive looks are not just for show. In terms of performance, it is very aggressive as well, but probably in the best way possible. It can be a bit of a handful, but it gives you an incredible driving experience. And once you get used to how this car wants to be thrown around, then honestly, it's almost unmatched. This is definitely one of the better road cars that I've tested in GT7 period. It really is an incredible piece of kit. You'll be throwing it through the corners, you'll get onto the straights, you've got the roar of the V12, it's fast enough to suck your face off, and honestly, when it comes to the model itself, this is easily the best looking 812 Superfast I've ever seen in any game period. Honestly, it's incredible. But what about when it comes to the upgrades? Now, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say it's perfect, because honestly, it's not. It does have a few downsides. The main one being the fact that it is an incredibly thirsty machine. However, when it comes to upgrading the performance, it sits at around about 1,000 brake horsepower, and it can handle it with absolute ease, which really surprised me. I didn't expect the aero parts that you can put on this thing to actually be that high in terms of their downforce potential. If you slap up the downforce, this thing will grip like no tomorrow when coupled with the racing softs. It feels absolutely insane. And again, that extra kick of the power, of course the extra grip through the corners, it just feels like an incredible package overall. Honestly, if I had to give it any criticism, I think it's just purely because it sits at such a high PP rating that it's quite difficult to find a 700 or 800 build sweet spot for it, and of course it's incredibly thirsty. And well, the other thing is, I just wish this was here from day one, and really should have been. And finally, the returning fan favourite, the Chevrolet Corvette Z06 C5 generation, having the honour of finally completing every single generation of Corvette in GT7. Now, as we can see, it's only going to set you back 65,000 credits, has a PP rating of 562.97, a displacement of 5,665 cc, FR drivetrain, 384 brake horsepower, weighing 1,409 kg. It's also naturally aspirated, of course. However, if you think that's a little bit expensive, you can pick it up from the used car dealership on rotation for 54,200 credits with some mileage on. But again, just go for the new one. Now, in terms of the car itself and its customization, there is plenty on offer here, thankfully. Yes, that does include the C5R body kit. So as you can see here, it does have a wide body option for 25,000 credits. Again, relatively cheap, plenty of different wheel options, so really whatever suits your taste is going to be able to go onto this vehicle. Now in terms of the aero options, when it's not wide bodied, really it's not too impressive. It does have a type A lip option. On the side it has two options of a D badge and then a type B sort of extended skirt. At the rear it does have the side lights removed with a type A, and then type B it is some type of diffuser, but not the fully built-in one which you'll see on the wide body. Now the wing options don't change, so you've got this sort of ducktail lip spoiler for type A. For type B, of course, you've got the race wing, which I think looks absolutely awesome, and we do have a custom wing set as well, which can go high, medium and low, and will change up depending. Now of course, when it comes to grille options, there is the removal of the badge. Now in terms of the rest of it, this is where it gets impressive. Once you've wide bodied it, you can then get these very aggressive aero packages on it. So as you can see from A, it almost kind of molds into one, which I think looks absolutely awesome. The side of it, again, you can have the typical D badge, or you can go for the extended skirt. And again, we do have some changes towards the rear of the car with this sort of built-in diffuser, again giving it that very aggressive race car look. And well, altogether, you practically end up with the C5R. Now let's talk about the default version of the car to begin with. Honestly, I'm impressed. I really wasn't expecting much from the performance of this car. Of course, it's a 2001 model. Honestly, it's kind of aged, but not poorly whatsoever. In fact, the model itself looks absolutely fantastic. And when it comes to the C5 Corvette, I feel like in recent years, it's been forgotten about from many racing games. Of course, it had the replacement C6, and then we had the C7, and now the C8. So the C5 just feels like it's kind of starting to disappear, and to see it back in GT7 is honestly incredible. Honestly, when it comes to the car itself, I do have a bit of a soft spot. Of course, when I was growing up and I was a kid and stuff like that, I grew up seeing the C5 in almost every racing game. So to see it back is always a great experience. And of course, it completes the Corvette lineup in GT7. But what about when it comes to the upgrades? Well, this is where it gets even better. Yes, when it comes to the Corvette C5, you can slap plenty of upgrades on it. And a little bit like the Suzuki Carry, there's going to be multiple different ways that you can build this vehicle up, and that's not a bad thing. You want to go for the C5R? Well, go ahead. You want to go for a street build or a drag build or a time attack build? Yeah, once again, you can do it. There's a lot of power here, a lot of grip, and it feels absolutely insane. However, this for me highlights one key issue with Gran Turismo 7. Okay, the Z06 is quite a thirsty gal, and you'd kind of expect it, and this for me screams for a race fuel tank swap. It just needs to be put in as an option for road cars, especially since a lot of them we tend to turn into race cars anyway. Adding that would solve a lot of issues with the lack of race cars in game, especially when it comes to things such as the C5 here, the Viper GTS, and all the other road cars that we turn into these full-blown race cars. So Polyphony, take note. But overall, the Z06 C5 is absolutely awesome to see in GT7 and a very welcome addition. I think this is going to be a firm fan favourite for this one. And there we go, that is my initial thoughts on all of the cars that have come alongside Gran Turismo Update 1.59. Of course, as mentioned, I will have full breakdown and reviews on my channel very soon for each and every single one of these cars. So feel free to join me for that. I will then go ahead and give my final rankings in a few weeks time. But let me know what you think of these cars down below. I certainly think this is the best batch of cars that we've had in 2025 so far. Honestly, that's not saying much, but I feel like this is a step in the right direction, and hopefully we can continue to get many diverse different packs of cars as we go through this year, including race cars Polyphony. Also, don't forget, get that race fuel tank swap in game. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys, peace.